Good morning, everybody, and welcome to MLS Monday here, March 9th. Today we've got Realist and RPR, and we're looking through finding clients and using data to find those clients. I know right now where we sit here in Southwest Florida, the market is, shifting. It's a little weird. We get a lot of phone calls. How do I get more business? How do I get in front of people? And I think it's really, really important now more than ever that we don't just throw this big net out, right? We don't just say, okay, who can I catch? And we just go after everybody. There is so much data to be had with the MLS and the real estate industry. You need to utilize it to the best of your capability that you can. Who's your niche client? What kind of client do you want to go after? And where are you going to find that perfect client? Use the data to filter down a search, find your people, and go after those core people. It might be community specific. It might be a specific niche of a client. Maybe it's investors. Maybe it's global clients who are, coming in to invest. There's so many different things. So at the end of the day, it's not one particular client that I'm going to teach you about today. Like, hey, here's the person that is going to buy or is going to sell today. This is exactly how you find them. It is finding the client for you, but then also, aside from what your niche is, then finding the client that's most likely to buy or sell as well. With that, added on to whoever your niche client is. Because at the end of the day, throwing out a net that just is going to cast to anybody and everybody who's looking to do business, you can have a lot of wasted marketing dollars in the process, right? If you're going to, just go out, let's say you live in Pelican Preserve and you just send out a mailer to everybody in Pelican Preserve, but somebody who just, bought their house maybe a couple weeks ago, well, they're not ready to sell. That's a waste of a postcard. It's a waste of postage stamps. How do you take your money and put it and allocate it towards, what its best use is? Who is ready to buy or sell? How do you filter that down so that you have more marketing dollars to go after people who are truly potentially ready to be clients? So let's go ahead and crack these two tools open. I'm going to share my screen. As we go through this process, down below there is a Q&A button, so you can type in, ask any questions through the process. We're here for any and all questions. There's no wrong questions. The chat box is disabled because it's webinar style, so do make sure you use the Q&A box. Alrighty. So first, what we're going to do is we are going to go through Realist, and then second, we will go through RPR. I will tell you that both of these tools are data-driven tools for, property insights mainly. And a lot of people call in and ask between these two, and next week we will be doing Remind. So you've got three tools that have a lot of property and consumer data in them. And people say, well, why do we have three? Which one do I use? They are all property data tools, yes, but they are completely different animals in their own. So when we go through these, it's going to be what works best for your instance, what you like, but also what you can get accomplished in them. So I like to think of this first tool we're going to go through, Realist. They have a lot of different filters that you can use. So if you're trying to filter down your data into something that's very, very niche, very specific, this is going to be the tool for you. Next, what we're going to do is go through RPR. And I like to think that RPR's strong point is they do have a good amount of filters, maybe not as much as Realist, but what RPR has is a commercial section as well as it's easier to search the nationwide tool. Okay. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to figure out what it is that you want to do. When I was practicing as a realtor, I used both. Okay. So I used Realist for here locally to filter down to a very specific niche type of customer base that I wanted to go and farm. But then, whenever I wanted to do something that was national, I loved going after in the winter months, going after the people up in Boston, right? My family's from Boston. I can relate to them. They were a good client base to reach out to connect with. And when it was storm season, I would use the other tool, which is RPR, to do a nationwide search of who's like very likely to sell soon, and see if maybe the transition they're making would be down here to Florida. So just a couple different examples. They might not fit exactly what you're looking to do, but you can get the gist. So here in Realist, your dashboard is where you're automatically going to land when you click in here. Some great quick stats of what's going on, MLS prices, and different things. You can customize this dashboard if you want to, but what we're going to spend time in today is the search. So what's great about Realist is this search is pulling in both MLS data along with the public record data. So as you're searching, depending on what you need, it might be MLS data. Maybe you want to take out anything that's active or pending. You can do that because it's got the MLS feed in here, but then it also has the property record data. So that gives you a good idea of people's home addresses, like where they actually reside. A lot of people, the address will be 123 Main Street, Fort Myers, but their mailing address is actually, out of state. So if you're looking to go after out of state people, or if you're looking, maybe you're going after property management, you can filter these by people who are not associated with the address and, be able to figure out, do they have tenants or not. So there is a quick search here. If you're looking to just pull up an address really quick in a conversation and pull up that entire property record for details, that's what you're going to use this for. But for today, what we're going to do is go to My Search and build out a customized search because there are so many different filters that you can use in here. So right out of the gate, it starts out with what the default is for Realist. Okay, so My Search default, you'll notice there's a lock symbol next to it. Everybody says that it was altered in 2009 because that's when we started this product. And in this search, there are a lot of different filters down here. Okay, a lot of basics that you're used to seeing in MLS, right? So building square foot, bedroom, bathroom, year built, house number, all kinds of stuff. But what we want to do is we'll go through all the filters that you can add in here as well. So we're going to come up here and we're going to create a brand new search. What's great about this is you don't have to recreate the wheel every time you come out here. Okay, so if you have a very niche clientele, again, that you're going after, maybe it's a specific community, maybe it's, foreign investors, whatever it might be, you can create that search and then save it. So every time you come out here, those fields are readily available to you. So you're going to type the search name in here up top. I'm going to call this one our class example. And then all of your categories to build out that search are listed here. For those of you that have taken our class on the new matrix search, right? Because we've got new searches and new inputs and all of that coming into MLS. You'll notice that this looks very, very similar, right? They've got great upgrades out here in Realist, and they took those searches and what works and they copied it over into MLS. So they look very similar. Every single field that you can imagine is here under the All Categories button. However, if you wanted to break it down, they've got them in different tabs as well, based on what type of characteristic they fall into. So I'm going to go through each of these, point out some important ones so that it might spark an idea for you of, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. I do advise that you take time, you come out here, you read through all of these, because maybe you're still in those stages of figuring out what your niche clientele is or what it is that you're looking for. And this could spark some ideas, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And when you look at these, you go, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could filter by that, or I didn't even know that was an option. Yeah, I need that. That's why it's important to read through all of these fields. So owner information, this is a great option for if you're trying to figure out like, maybe if they're not owner occupied or they are owner occupied, right? That helps you with property management standpoint or, trying to figure out if they're tenant occupied. So you can filter by owner occupied. That's just going to add it into your search capability, right? So if we check this off, it doesn't mean that it will be owner occupied. It just means that when we go to search, we'll be able to say yes or no to this. Other options would be mailing addresses, mailing zip code, mailing address state. So again, I used this when, let's say I lived in Pelican Preserve, but I wanted to reach out to everybody in Pelican Preserve who was from, certain states. Maybe it was from Boston, like I said, or you're trying to, filter it down to what areas they're from. This is a great way to filter that out. So you could put the state that they're from, or maybe you only wanted, people who were in Florida. You don't want to work from people out of state. That will give you that option as well. Foreign country is very, very popular for all of our, especially our global group. We've taught this class many times before. If you're working with people, maybe, we've got a lot of people who had dual citizenship with here and with Germany, and they really, really wanted to go after all the people who lived in Lee County who had a actual mailing address of Germany. And they would reach out and say, hey, I speak German and I can help you sell your home, things like that. Whatever it is that you're trying to go at from a marketing aspect, this is a great way to do that. All right, moving on to the next tab here. This is location information. So this has address information in it, right? But what's different is this is the actual physical property. So up here is all about the person who owns it. This is all about the actual structure in the property. So addresses, cities, things like that. If you wanted to just go after people in Cape Coral, just a certain zip code, whatever it is that your niche is, you can add those filters in here. They also have these subdivisions. So if we add that in here, we can go after specific communities if that's what your niche is. I keep picking up Pelican Preserve today, so that's what we'll go with. If you, live or you're really trying to go after that community, then you can filter out by it, along with all these other filters that you've added on there, so that you can go after that specific niche. But all of these are, again, related to the location of that property, all location based. They even have the census block group. Lots of really cool different things. Carrier route for mailing, lots of different things. Neighborhood code. But if we keep going, characteristics, this is what's going to bring you into the characteristics of that actual property. So the location of the structure and then the characteristics of the structure. So if you needed to filter this down based on what you're willing to or not willing to work with, maybe you're the pool expert, so you want to check off pools, you can certainly do that. We've got a lot of people who, don't want to work with condos, so you want to get rid of that, or maybe you're the condo queen or the condo king, and that's what you're looking to go after specifically. You can filter by that as well. They have a lot of different filters in here, some of them that might not make sense from a marketing perspective, but it's good to know that this data is out here if you were looking for a buyer or trying to help somebody find a very specific property. Everything's out here. All the fields that you have from MLS come out here. So how many bedrooms and bathrooms there are, the heating, the cooling. Obviously this is a national tool, so they even have basement type. I know we're in Florida, we don't have basements, but national tool here. So they have those options for you. Roof material, pool type, parking spaces, lots of different things. Year built, if you're going after new construction and that's your niche, you've got those options available for you as well. And then the land use here. So for those of you who might be going after, maybe it's like agricultural or, you wanted to get specific, you've got those options here as well. All right, listing information. This is the stuff that they're pulling in from the MLS. So we could plug in the status here if we wanted to filter out certain statuses. It's important to know, however, if you put in status and let's say you're like, hey, I only want things that are closed. Well, it's only going to put in things there that have been placed in the MLS and have been closed. So you're like kind of alienating anything that was outside of the MLS. So I only like to use this so that I can see, what's active and what's pending so I can get rid of those. But important to know, sometimes if you filter too much, you can filter out potential things when it's not thought through all of the way. Continuing down, assessment and tax data. So maybe you wanted to go after a specific type of customer. You can do this through Homestead. You can, if you work with veterans a lot, if they've got the veteran exemption, you can mail out to them. I've seen a lot of people send out reminders. Maybe it's not just the hard sale that you're going after. Maybe you want to send out a postcard with a reminder for, hey, don't forget this is coming up. You need to file. You can use this tax information for those types of postcards as well to get really, really specific in the type of communication that you're sending out to your clients. All right, sales information. So in here, deed type, recording date, sale type, seller name, document name, sales price, sell score, settle date. These are really, really important if you want to say, I only want to go after somebody who, has purchased their house. They say the industry is every 5 years, right? That's always kind of been the thing. We're seeing that number start to go up a little bit more. People are staying in their house longer than 5 years because 5 years ago, they all got really, really good rates, right? But still, if you wanted to say, I only want somebody, who's been in the house 5 years or longer, then you certainly could use the sale date to help filter that out. One of my favorites that they have in here is the sell score. So I'll add that in there. And when we get out to using that filter, I'll explain that sell score a little bit more to you as well. Let me check our Q&A and see if we have any. Nope. All right, foreclosure and distressed properties. This is a whole nother specialty and niche. So if this is the thing that you're going for, great. They've got all kinds of different options for you here. If it is a distressed sale altogether, then that option will be listed here. You can search by foreclosure case numbers if you're doing some kind of research. Foreclosure posted dates, foreclosure stage, right? We'll put this in here and we'll put this in here so you can see what those look like. Foreclosure auction dates, the indicators, and the recording dates. So if your specialty is auctions, foreclosures, anything like that, this is the section for you to filter by. And last but not least, mortgage information. So lender name, this isn't really for a marketing perspective. This is to help in any kind of research you may be doing. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have a class on CMAs. This tool, along with several other tools, are used for CMAs. So aside from a marketing perspective, you see a lot of filters out here because they're really good for research, general data, CMAs, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. They've given you so much data out here. All right, so we're going to click save and apply. And now you'll see if we choose class examples, already highlighted there. When we scroll down now, all of the different filters that I chose, the different things that I want to use to build out my search are now here. So owner occupied, we can select yes or no. So maybe we only want to go after people who are in their home. If we're doing property management, we can say, no, we don't want it to be owner occupied, right? And you're taking the risk of it being their second home or of it being a rental property. But in the same note, you can really curtail your message to that. The foreign list of countries here, when you click this, it opens up a bigger window because there's so many options aside from, previously it was just a yes or no question. They have all of the countries listed out here. So no matter, who it is that you're looking to work with, maybe, it's a language thing or it's just a relationship thing, you can filter this out so that you can work with global investors. Subdivision, again, if community is your specialty, you can search in here. And this one has so many, you really just start searching and it'll pull up anything that has to do with it. So Pelican for Pelican Preserve, lots of different things. Pelican Sound in Florida, there's a lot of Pelican communities, obviously. But you can select multiple communities, okay? You don't have to select just one. Especially like, things like Pelican Preserve or whatever it might be. They've got so many different breakouts of subdivisions. So the overall community name is in there, and then it has that dash and then the subdivision. So if you wanted to just go after the smaller subdivision instead of the entire development, you've got those options as well so that you can really, really get down into the specific area. Has pool, this is something else. It's just a yes or no option here. Construction type. So this was just a random one we added in here, but if you only wanted to work with like wood frame homes or concrete block, dome, heavy, other things like that, again, you can see that everything we added in here is now an option. The MLS statuses. So we could look at just the sold data. If you're looking at working, I add this one in here to bring in this perspective. We've got a lot of people that go after like the expireds or the terminateds here, then you can do that. It's important to note, we have an MLS rule about you cannot contact sellers who are currently under contract or have a listing with another realtor. So make sure that you're not going after like the actives and the pendings on purpose, right? Most of us, put a disclosure on the bottom of our postcards or any kind of marketing that we do that says, hey, if you're already working with a realtor, please disregard. If you have questions about that, ask your broker, call legal hotline for those kinds of disclosures. But it's important that, when you go back and look at it, that you're not just going after the actives. You can't go, oh, I want to go after the actives. I know they want to sell their house because they have it listed. Well, yeah, but they're they're with another realtor. And some of us giggle about it, but when you're brand new in the industry, sometimes you just don't know. We've had those calls before. Somebody said, well, I just went after all the actives because I know they want to sell their house and maybe they want me instead of their realtor. You just, we say it because you just never know. But you can go after the terminateds, you can go after the solds, the renteds, the expireds, if that's that niche that you're looking to do. So again, my favorite filter here is the sell score. Realist pulls in a lot of different and they create a sell score. This is based off of the equity that they might have in the home based on the mortgage that is recorded. This is based on how long they've owned the home. And a lot of other things. They pull in like the postal data and stuff, like if they're subscribed to magazines for home improvement, things like that. There's a whole litany of data that is behind the sell score. So this is really, really cool because instead of just, again, throwing a blanket out to anybody and everybody, you can put a score in here. What's great is they have the numbers here. If you hover over the information icon, it will tell you what their score numbers are. Okay, because you're like, I have no idea what to put in these boxes. In this box, is it 1 to 5? Is it 1 to 10? Is it what? It's 1 to 100, and it tells you there. It breaks it down into categories. So a very high sell score where they really, really, truly believe that they're about to sell would be 831 to 1,000. If the highs are 625 to 830, moderate 502 to 624, low 354 to 501, and then very low would be 0 to 353. So let's say I wanted to do high and very high. I'm going to put in here 625 to 1,000, and it will give me everything in there. You can also change this so that it's not data that's from this number to this number. You can say anything that is exactly a score or anything that is greater than. So I also could have just put is greater than 625, right? That's going to give me everything that is high and very high. But these sell scores are really, really cool way to, go after people who are more potentially likely to sell or do a move in the near future. Foreclosure stages here, if you're looking to get into distressed properties, you've got pre-foreclosure, auction, and bank owned, so that you know exactly where it's at in that process. And you can decide if you want to go after anything that is distressed or just those specific types. And then here, distressed sales overall, you could just say, yes, I want distressed sales. But also, if that's something that you're not comfortable with and you don't want to go after, you can exclude them from your list as well by clicking no. So anything that's distressed, like I don't want to waste my time with that. They're, already working down a process that is not for me. Then you can go ahead and do that depending on if it's your niche or not. So with all of these in here, we could simply just click search, but it's going to pull our entire area of data. And I was playing around here earlier. Let's make our way down to Florida and out of Philadelphia. So in here, you can also use the map to search just the same as you would in MLS. So if there is a specific area that you wanted to go into, and maybe you didn't plug it in here, you didn't plug in the development, you didn't plug in the city, and you wanted to go after your specific neighborhood, you can do that with the drawing tool. Okay, so up here you've got a circle, a square, or freehand with the polygon, and you can draw what you want so that your search would be just inside of this fun little shape, and then make sure it ends back at your first dot. And I made my square too big. We'll zoom in here. So when you go to search, and you can move that around as well, but when you go to search, it will pull just the data that is within that area. So I do suggest, don't pull the entire Southwest Florida region. That's going to be way massive amount of data. It's too much for you to use. So either use the filter here to go by a city, a zip code, or a community, or go ahead and draw it on a map so that you're searching in a specific area. Oh, let me fix my little polygon here. We'll delete this shape, zoom in a little bit. We'll do this community. And you can already see based on the MLS data when we zoomed in here, it starts feeding you right away what's active, what's pending, based on these markers here. And there we go. So now, based on what we've plugged in here and based on our map, we have all of our results down here below, right? So anybody who has a sell score of 625 or higher, what else did we add in here? Not owner occupied, and whatever else it is that you build this search to be that's specific for you, all of your results will show up down here. This is basic information running along the spreadsheet here, but you can also customize it if you needed to, and you can add in different columns or different fields so that you can look through this data. A lot of the times people, once they've added in their filters, they're good to go. They just grab everything and export it. But if you wanted to, you could scroll through each of these as needed, right? Like this shows us that these properties have been listed on the MLS and sold before. But maybe I want to unselect anything that's active. Like I just don't even want to chance it or waste my time. You can do that here in the grid, but you can also do it on the map as well. If you wanted to unselect them, you could click into the pins and then move this down a little bit and then deselect them as well. All right. So once you've gone through all of your data, you've decided what you want and what you don't want, you've got some options here. You can export it with a quick export, or you can choose what fields you want it to export, and that would give you an Excel spreadsheet. So depending on what you're doing for marketing if you're doing postcards, if you're doing mailers, if you've got a company that says, hey, just send us the spreadsheet, we, print the addresses on the postcards for you, then this would be your option. If you are printing out the postcards and putting on the stickers yourself, then they have this beautiful option down here for labels so that you can choose which label you've purchased, and then it will just give you that Word document for you to print out so that you don't have to go out, figure out how to format and make labels from an Excel spreadsheet. It does this for you. What's great is it also gives you a few options. You've got mixed case here, so that would be capitals and lower cases, or you could just do all capitals because it's going to pull it out based on what it sees in public record. Okay, so if public record puts it in as all caps, and then sometimes you can see it all caps, sometimes you can't. It's just going to use what it sees from public record. This is going to make it all cap letters. This is an important piece here. Using the tax billing address means that it will send it to whatever the homeowner has for their home address, right? Like they might own 123 Main Street in Fort Myers, but they don't live there, right? Maybe it's a rental property, maybe it's their second home, whatever it is. But if their home address that they've listed with the property tax appraiser's office is out in Boston, that's where your letter is going to go to. Okay, it's going to go to wherever they actually have registered as their mailing address. If you select this option instead, it's going to go to that physical property address regardless of where the homeowner lives, right? So if there's a tenant there instead, that's who's getting it. So depending on what type of marketing you're trying to do, you either want the physical property address or where the homeowner lives, and those are options for you. With that address given, you can have it show the current owner, or you can create a custom label. I see a lot of people use the custom label versus the homeowner because if the information has recently changed and it's not accurate in the property appraiser's office yet, you're going to get a lot of bounce back, right? So let's say like Sally Sue sold the home recently and now Jane Doe owns the home, but you send a letter to Sally Sue, it's going to bounce back. It's going to say she no longer lives there, right? Because now it's Jane Doe. But you just want it to land somewhere. Then a lot of people will create custom label and say current homeowner, okay? Or they'll put, future customer, future client. You can put whatever you want in there that basically covers everybody instead of a name. You also have include foreign addresses. So if you're mailing out here and it's going to a foreign address, because they're formatted differently, it does ask you to check that specifically off. It also, a lot of times people don't even realize there's foreign addresses in there and the postage is different. And then they go to drop it off and it bounces back because, let's say you just put on like a postcard stamp on there and it has to go all the way to Canada. Then it's going to bounce back. So this is kind of so that you recognize that you need to look for foreign addresses. And then eliminate duplicate labels. This is a button they brought on, a few years back when I was practicing. It wasn't around, and I would go through all of these and look for the duplicate labels. This is very common, especially like in communities. You'll have an investor come in and buy like 4 rental properties in one community. And so, if you're mailing to their address and they've got 4 properties and you don't click this, they'll get 4 postcards. But, so you save on your postage, eliminate duplicate labels. And then you do have 12,000 exports that you can do a month, So do be cognizant. If you were doing more than 12,000 postcards a month, then I think we should definitely talk. But I haven't had anybody exceed this limit yet. But then you can also choose to just export a certain amount. Maybe you just want to do the first 50 for now. You want to do 50 later, whatever that might be. For your exports, it'll all be recorded here. So if you did one earlier in the month, you would have a number here and it would tell you how many you have left. I click cancel for now. Your other options are to just print this list or email this list. So if you did this for research purposes versus actual marketing purposes, those options are there for you. But today, we're mainly talking about clients and farming and using the data to find your people. You're going to be using this export button and you're going to be using this label button here. I do want to point out that there's also a lot more map features if you need that to filter down into your specific client niche. So you can add these filters on here for, neighborhood, zip code, elementary school, middle school, high school. They've got like the areas around those schools. If you're doing that, flood zones, different things. So if you wanted to add these filters on here, we'll give it a second to load. And then maybe you wanted to like draw your freehand around it. Like, oh gosh, I don't want anybody, in this zone. You could have wait to draw it, add this filter on there. There's a lot of different things that you can add on to here to help you make your decision of who it is that you are going after and trying to market to. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people do on here is go after renters, right? They say owner occupied, no. And then they'll send out a mailer about becoming a homeowner to everything that's not owner occupied in a certain area for a certain niche of clients they wanted to work with. And the last thing I do want to point out on here too is we talked before, I told you, if you filter out only by things that have been terminated, expired, or sold, it's only going to pull MLS data and you're going to miss out on data. This kind of shows you what I mean. So these have closed, so they have the little markers on here, but you'll notice that these ones don't have markers because they've not been in the MLS before, but they still count, right? So you would be, if you just filtered by MLS data, you would be missing out on these properties that don't have any MLS data. It's only going to give you the ones that are sold. Okay. So if it's never been in the MLS before, you're missing out on data there. But I like to still have these on here because, again, then I can see what's active, I can see what's pending, and I can deselect those. But kind of full circle moment there, just showing you guys why it's important to not only put the solds in there. So this is everything in Realist and how to pull data and use that data to find your niche client. If you have any questions, we can come back into this one. Oh, I see some questions popping up because then we're also going to hop over into RPR and I will run through that with you guys as well. Question: where is the deselect button? So if you were wanting to deselect the properties, you're going to use these check boxes right here running along the side. So the map allows you to open up and look at like the report and the thumbnails. But the deselect, so when I click it, you can see it brings it to the top here on my list. It scrolls me right to that point so I can deselect it. But all of the deselects are going to be on that list. And then if you were scrolling through here, oh, don't move your map. I do that way too often. So like these two are active and I'm like, oh no, I don't want those. I can click on them and then it'll bring me right to them and I can make sure that they're deselected from that list. So when I do the export or when I do the labels, it is only going to do the ones that are selected here. Where do we find the companies that can create the postcards and do the mailings? I would do a Google search. We don't have them here. They're not built into this one. Other programs that have it are Remine. There's just a lot of marketing companies out there. I know a lot of people are using Canva and doing it themselves on Canva. But I, would do some research. It's not built in. These are the programs where you're going to get the data and the information to give them. But definitely ask around at your office and your broker, see if they've got any discount codes, anything like that, to help you with finding those specific postcards. And what's important to know is, while I load up the next tool, it's not just about the postcards and the mailings, right? Because those can take sometimes. Those are residual. We always say you've got to do mailings, at least, we say once a month to bi-monthly, depending on the turnover rate in that community. But it takes about 6 months before you really start hearing from them. It's important to pair everything else you're doing with this data. This is a great way to easily export. It's the easy button for those addresses. But what else are you doing in that community? And what else are you doing for targeted marketing in that area? Or it's not even just about community. Maybe it's, you're going after all investors and you're not specific on an area. What are you doing on socials to go after those types of consumers, right? What are you filtering your ads to on social media? Are you creating groups for those people where you're the forefront of information and data for them? There's so many different things that you want to pair with all of this data that you get, that you research. I've seen a lot of realtors with a lot of success creating like community, if they're specifically, we'll pick on Pelican Preserve again. If you live in Pelican Preserve or you're marketing to Pelican Preserve, are you a part of their magazines? Are you a part of their billboards? Are you a part of their social media community groups? And are you, pairing what you're doing here along with all of those other different initiatives as well? Very important. And obviously, when you're filtering down by those, you want to make sure that you are, being cognizant of fair housing. All of our tools are not going to let you filter down by anything that is against fair housing, right? So all of those 7 protected layers, you're not going to be able to filter by them. And I know also that when you're doing social media ads and things like that, when it says, is this for housing, you're real estate related, you always have to click yes. It will turn those filters off because things like Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, they have protected themselves from fair housing lawsuits as well, right? Because they had too many people that were filtering by demographics that you're not allowed to filter by. So you're protected here with all of these filters, along with the next tool I'm going to show you. They're all filters you're allowed to use. But just, something to be cognizant of. I've seen it too many times that you just want to be careful of. All right, so our next tool is RPR. And this will not take nearly as much time because it's very similar to the concepts that we've just gone through in Realist, but I want to show you what they have in addition to or separate from Realist. So when you click into RPR, this tool, I like to say all the time, I could probably spend the entire year of MLS Monday every single week covering something that this tool does, because there's nothing that it doesn't do. There's so many things in here. Running along the top gives you an idea of everything that this tool is capable of. And these are great guided tours. So if you wanted to create a CMA, wanted to create a report, do prospecting, if you click these buttons, it'll walk you through. It'll say, hey, click here. You click it and it tells you what to do next. So if you don't remember anything I teach you today, you can use the guided tour to get done what you need to. All right. So let's start here at the top. I talked before about the difference with this tool is if you are going after commercial property, if that's your niche, this tool is going to be perfect for you. They have an entire sector of their development that is dedicated to commercial. It's automatically toggled onto residential, but you simply can switch it over to commercial. And now everything you do is searching anything that is classified commercial. RPR, just as our last tool, has a feed with MLS, so it's pulling in MLS data, but it is also pulling in public record data. And I know it's really important for commercial because commercial, there's not a whole lot of it in the MLS when you're doing research because there's a lot of stuff that just happens behind the scenes. Commercial's pulling in all that public record data for you to make it a lot easier. So in here, you can start by searching a specific property address, a city, a state, anything. For prospecting, I think your best bet though is to come down here and click into the map search. So you can just scroll around on the map here, but the map search button is what's going to open up the window to a whole lot of other filters. All right, so we're still in residential right now. However, at any point, you can toggle back and forth simply with the click of that button. It follows you everywhere. So if we were to zoom out, we're zoomed into the Caloosahatchee right now, we can see that there are just property data records all up and down here. It'll take a minute for this to load because I have not filtered anything out yet. But a lot like our last tool, there are a lot of map tools. So if we wanted to, we could freehand again and draw us a little funky shape and scroll down into it. It's going to take a second to load there. And you'll be able to tell once it's done and loaded, wow, because you've got this status bar up top. And I am zooming at the same time, so I'm sure it's taking up all of my bandwidth. However, aside from the map tools, which are very, very similar to Realist, they've got the same thing here, right? The data layers, if you wanted to do flood zones, all those different things here. They've got the school zones, points of interest, driving directions, a lot of the same things that you guys just saw. And then there's the basic necessities up here, right? Location, it's already in Fort Myers. That's where we put the map. So it's just displaying that there. You can put if it's for sale or for lease, what you want included, active, pending, things like that. So if you did not want the active properties, what's great about this is you can just deselect those, or you can just search the public record. Okay. And then you could search when it was sold. So you can say anything, from 5 years back, clear on to infinity. Property type, again, if you only want to do single family, or maybe you're the condo queen, maybe you're going after the manufactured homes. I've seen a lot of people who are specializing in manufactured homes lately. That's been a hot button. We get a lot of calls about if you're a lot and land specialist, whatever that might be. And then price. This would be if you were searching MLS data. Obviously, if you're trying to go after somebody to list, you don't have the price yet. But this magical little button over here is what's going to give you all of those details before. Now, like I said, Realist, the tool that we first covered, has a lot of different filters, a lot of different little like niche filters to go by. The RPR tool that we're in now has a good amount of filters. You can see here, bedrooms, bathrooms. They've got the distressed sections out here as well. You can also, for whatever reason, if you're searching by open houses, they're pulling that in from MLS, lot and land. You can also filter by, if you needed to look at properties that were listed in another MLS, you can do that here. Occupation, or sorry, occupancy type, if it's owner occupied or an absentee owner, the year built. And then there's some keyword searches. That's more popular if you were searching actual MLS data, okay? Because they're going based off of what was typed into that property description. Time of year, time of ownership is also listed here. So at the top, right, we had the sold dates if you wanted to get specific, but if you wanted to just press an easy button and say like all of these ones, then you could do that. When you're done, you're going to click update search and you're going to get those filters. So again, not as many filters as the other tool, but what is great about this tool, and it's, absolutely hating me right now because I'm doing way too many things to it, is we can, scroll out and we can head north, like way north. Like I said, this tool is way better for doing national searches. So I come up here a lot and I'll drag us over to like Philadelphia or Boston, and you can draw shapes here and you can use this search here. You could even just put in Boston, Massachusetts, and you can conduct a search nationwide. Okay. So Realist, we have the data right to search and filter all of the stuff that's like here in Lee County and a good amount of other counties in Florida. But if you're doing a national search, for sure, you're going to want to come and use this tool, use RPR. Maybe you like are from a certain area and you want to go after everybody that's in your old neighborhood. And I've way overloaded the system here. I'll zoom in a little bit and see what it pulls. But if you're doing that national search, this is great, whether it's for research or it's for marketing. Again, when it's cold up north during the winter months, I used to market to my old zip code all the time, and it actually worked. It really, really does. So depending on what you're trying to do for marketing, you've got that there. I do want to show you guys as well. We'll come back to Fort Myers. There we go. So if we come back to where we were originally searching here, what we've gone through so far was all of the residential options. When you switch to commercial, a lot of this stays the same. It's very easy to switch back and forth. But what is interesting is you come up here to more filters, you're gonna get different filters. Okay. So it's gonna give you commercial specific filters so that your property types are completely different here. So if you are specializing in office space, maybe restaurant space, healthcare space, you can do all of it if you want to, or just go after that specific type of niche market that you're going for here. And a lot of these are the same, but they even have, the distressed properties, lot and land. You can search other organizations as well and all those same filters. But what's great is you've got some additional filters here that are very specific for commercial. All right, so that is both of those platforms here. Today we've gone through Realist and we've gone through RPR. Great ways to find data, find that niche client. And at the end of the day, it's just sitting down, like I said, go through each of those filters, figure out what it is that you need, who your niche client is, so that you can better find them and find your target market instead of just throwing out that wide cast net and trying to figure out, it's just like, well, whatever sticks, sticks. But this is a better way for you to utilize your time, your marketing dollars, and find the right people for you. If you have any questions, I don't see anything left in the Q&A box. If you have anything, you can type something in there really quick. We'll get to it. But as you're working through this, if you find that you are struggling at all or you need help, call us here. We've got a whole team at MLS that'll help walk you through that tool. You can also email us at mls@rpcra.org and we'll help you through that as well. Both of these tools also have help sections on each of them that are from those direct developers. These tools, I believe, are like one of the stronger ones for their help sections. They've got great videos, they've got great walkthroughs. You can search the help center if you're like, hey, how do I make labels? They'll pop up for you there for both of those. They're great tools for that. What is the best way to make sure properties that have no HOA come up? I would say that if they don't have an HOA filter on any of these, you can use MLS for sure. MLS has the filters on there, but that's not going to pull the property tax data. But what you could do is, if you're going after a certain zip code, plug in the subdivisions, are in those zip codes and have it eliminate those or draw your map around ones. But there is not an HOA fee or condo fee. Those filters are not in there at this time. And that's because, the data, we do have that in the MLS because the realtors, that you have to read through the rules and regs and you have to type it in, but that's not something that's published anywhere, right? It's like in the rules and regs, which are hidden behind a login for these people in the communities. It's not published with the property appraiser's office. It's not published data anywhere for them to take it and feed it in. The only data that they have is what's in MLS, which is realtor entered, which you also want to research as well. But it's a really, really good question. It's a really good question, especially I know that when I was in the industry, working with the communities and stuff like that was not my favorite. So I always tried to avoid communities with HOAs and condo covenants and things like that. And your best bet is looking at it from a geographical point of view and excluding those communities or drawing around them, depending on, whether you want to use the actual filter or the map filter. That's going to be your best bet. But great question for sure. All right, let's see what else we've got. Is there any way to filter out or identify a community's rental policy? No, there's not. So when it comes to communities, none of their rules, none of their fees, none of that is going to be in there. It's only going to be the actual community name because anything that's like their covenants, again, it's the same as the fees. That's not a data piece that's published anywhere. Communities rental policy. Yeah, that's something that's only in their rules and regulations, unfortunately. If you are on MLS and you're searching MLS for the buyer, we've got those buttons in there. Again, that's the only place we've got it. And because we make the realtors enter it after reading the rules and regulations. So All right, guys. So next week, if you're joining us, we will be going through Remine, which is another property data tool with it's got a lot of cool other filters outside of the ones we looked at today. The two we looked at today, very, very almost very similar, two different animals, but Remine has some really, really cool filters. So if you're still looking to prospect, farm, or find data, join us next week on MLS Monday and we'll be going through Remind. I appreciate you guys spending your Monday with me today, and we'll talk to you soon.